Hi, welcome to the 80th HRSouthwest Conference. This is the virtual session for its Growth Day. My name is Bruce Waller, and I am so excited to see you. We're going to have a lot of fun over these next 50 minutes. And one of the things that I've learned through virtual sessions is that we really grow when we have an engaging session. So I want to go ahead and get us started. We're here in the morning on Tuesday. I was just at the Fort Worth Convention Center giving this presentation just last week, and it went over great, and I know it's going to go over great here. You're going to get a lot of ideas. Hey, I want to know, what are you having for breakfast to get started? And, of course, I'm having my water in my Dream It, Do It cup. And what are you having? Put it in the chat. Like, what are you having for breakfast? Are we having omelets, steaks? Are we having orange juice? Are we having coffee? Come on, coffee, as we are here getting ready to talk about its Growth Day. And I'm really excited about this session because we're gonna have fun here. And I want to just mention that even though this session is being recorded, I am live in the chat right now, chatting with you. And so I love the engagement going on already early this morning. You're ready to grow. I'm ready to grow. So let's get started. And I got to tell you, one of the most important things, my hope for today is that you will come away with an idea or several ideas that you can use for you or your team to help you grow in your organization. So here's the first thing I want to ask you, and that is this. Who here is a Tom Hanks fan? Come on, Tom Hanks. I would say one of my favorite movies is Forrest Gump. Put in the chat right now, what is your favorite Tom Hanks movie? I would love to hear that. I want to share a quick story to kind of kick us off. And several years ago, I was watching the Academy Awards. And I saw where Tom Hanks had just received another award for his amazing career. And he got up on stage and he was giving his presentation. And I remember something stuck with me. He said, we need to bring 3 things to the workplace. Actually, he said the movie set. I heard workplace. We need to bring 3 things to the movie set every day. And funny story, I don't remember 2 of those things, but I do remember the most important one. And he said this: we need to bring our ideas to the workplace. And how are we going to bring ideas to the workplace? We got to be searching for ideas, and we find those ideas. We find those ideas through conferences like attending today. And so my hope today is that you'll come away with an idea, or maybe you'll share an idea in the chat. And someone else will pick up that idea and it will make them better, because we all learn from each other. And so today, let's go for the ideas. Let's look for the ideas. Let's pursue the ideas, and let's grow from that. Hey, I started, my background, I work for Armstrong Relocation, and I've been serving companies, helping their talent relocate for the last 25 years. And in 2020, that pandemic thing came, and all of a sudden it caused everybody to push that pause button. And many times I would meet people on site or maybe off site at Starbucks and have a conversation and grow and learn and connect with them. And whenever the pandemic came, the Starbucks closed. And I was trying to figure out, how am I going to stay connected? How am I going to be able to keep growing? And one of the ways I decided was I started a podcast. The podcast is called Life in the Leadership Lane. Have you heard any of the sessions? If you have, put that in the chat. I would love to hear your feedback on that. But over the season, I, learned so much from so many different high performers. And I would reach out to all of these different leaders. Many of the leaders are serving in an HR role. But one of the leaders that I got to interview was someone that I've admired for many, many years, and that is Hall of Fame coach Bob Stoops. He was the former head football coach for the University of Oklahoma for 17 years, and currently he's a broadcaster, Hall of Famer, all of that. But when I interviewed him on his book that he just released, and I asked him a question and around the book, and when he shared this clip, I want to share this clip for you because here's what he says. He said, we're going to have to change it up. And for some of you, that's going to be hard. And so I'm going to play this clip and let's hear what Coach Stoops has to say about changing it up.
Anybody that's in the leadership or a managing position has got to look at the whole of it all. And how is it all working together? What can we do daily, weekly to improve it? And I think very few things in life stay the same. So also it may rock along and be good for a year or two, and then some things need to be tweaked or changed. And we never hesitated to do that. I know that in our program, at times I change up the way we practiced. I change up from day to day. I went into one game before Tennessee at the beginning of a year and changed up our whole weekly practice routine. And the players thought I was crazy. And we won the game, and afterwards everybody liked it. They're like, I like this new routine. Our guys were just kind of bored with the old routine. We needed something fresh and new, and we weren't afraid to do it. If you're working hard, you'll make it work one way or another. But I think sometimes you can get stagnant if you don't look to improve.
Hey, what'd you think about that? Put that in the chat. I love that, what he said. We can all get stagnant if we're not looking for improvement. That's what we're going for here. We're looking for how can we improve? How can we grow? Because the more we grow, the more we can help others. And I got to tell you, I'm thinking right now, like, when's the last time you went to the office and said, hey, team, everybody away from your desk, we're going to work from the conference room. We're going to work outside today. What about, hey, you know what? Today after work, we're going to have this activity, or we're going to celebrate something different. Changing it up. That's another way to grow. And so think about that. Think about that as we go through the presentation here, as we go through all of the different ideas. Think about how can you change it up just a little bit as we go through. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. You can hear the full interview, of course, on your favorite podcast platform. So whenever I think about Growth Day, whenever I think about growing, I always talk to people about you've got to start with the why. And we just got through reading that book by Simon Sinek. I love what he said. There are leaders and there are those that lead. And those that lead inspire. And I think about, for me, why Growth Day. And number one, when I'm growing, I get energized. Like when I'm reading a book and I get an idea or something, I just get energized because I know, number one, I learned something new. And number two, I can share that with someone. Number two, I connect. It's that connectivity because I want to connect. I want to connect with myself for that self-awareness. And I want to connect with others. And a lot of times when we're growing, it gives us a chance to have different conversations. When's the last time you asked someone about, hey, what do you do for growth? Think about that. And then number three, it gives me a sense of purpose. When I published the book, Life in the Leadership Lane, I used my purpose, and that is to move leaders to inspire and change the workplace. And I think everyone wants that purpose. Everyone wants that meaningful pursuit. And I think when we're growing, it helps us just continue to move in that direction. And so we got to start with, why do we want to grow? Because if we know our why, we can get through the how, especially when times are tough. But if we don't know the why, a lot of times we quit on different things. So think about that. I will tell you, I want to talk about 5 different things. And the first thing I want to talk about is setting goals. And we're going to talk about the difference between goal setting and then also or a goal mindset and a growth mindset. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to start with setting goals. The first question I have for you is put in the chat if you have written goals. And I will tell you, most people don't have written goals. And many times it's because they're not exactly sure what goals they should have, or maybe they kind of know it in their head and they kind of get in that routine. We just talked, Coach Stoops just talked about, you get stagnant, get in that routine. We got to set some goals. And, this pandemic has created a lot of fatigue for a lot of leaders. And I always tell people, if we don't have something to look forward to, it's going to create that sense of heaviness for us. So put it in the chat. Hey, do you have any goals set? I mean, have you thought about taking a certification? Or if you have a certification, put it in the chat. We want to celebrate you. Maybe you have a goal to be the CHRO, the CPO. Maybe you have the goal to be a future speaker. Write down those goals. You need to have a goal. And I always say, you don't have to have 50 goals. You just have a few goals. And we're going to hear from my friend Melanie Schaefer talk about what she does. But I always like to also add, start with the who. And what does that mean? Because the who leads to the do. And what that means is find people that inspire you, that you admire, and try to take some of those traits from them. Maybe they are on time. You want to be on time. Maybe and dependable. Maybe they are someone that communicates really well. And so you want to be a better communicator. Maybe, so find that trait that they have and then start pulling those in. You don't have to copy them. Just pull those in to figure out, okay, these are the traits that I want for me or maybe for my team. And then now let's start working towards these traits, right? Because the more we become, because it's all about becoming more, right? If we want more, we need to become more. And that's a Jim Rohn quote. And then I want to just add on this too, and that is, I have since installed or implemented a yes and not yet list. And not sure what your lists look like, but I'm an idea, generator. I'm always thinking of different ideas. But it's easy to get distracted. So I have a yes list, which means those are my top 3 goals that I have for this year. And I try to do that each week. Like, here's the 3 things I want to accomplish. But I also have a not yet list. And that not yet list are for things that I just can't get to right now. But I don't want to lose that idea. So I put those on my not yet list. And that is a long list, I'll tell you. But it keeps me focused on what's important. And I want you to hear what my friend, CEO Melanie Schaefer, has to say about what she does when it comes to goal setting. So let's hear Melanie.
For me, it's the top 3. It's every morning putting the top 3 areas that have to get done today and then doing the hardest one first. And I'd say that's really simple, but Bruce, if you knew my behavioral analytics, you can't put anything complex on me as far as structure because I won't follow it. I have tried everything, but I have a planner and I put on my Outlook, I just put my top 3 things because it gives me my needs, I know, and my self-awareness and where I can be. My blind spots in leadership can be that I want things to happen so fast and I'm so results focused that if I don't feel like we're getting somewhere, I tend to, start kind of like, well, where's this or where's that? Or, when are we going to have this done? And the 3 keeps me centered. And then we also have, every quarter, we have our rocks as a team that I monitor. So at the end of every week, I look at where we are on those 3. And sometimes, we get them done 3 weeks into the quarter. So we switch out that rock and we bring up, something else that we're going to focus on. So I think it's the 3. For me, it's the 3 daily and it's the 3 every quarter.
Isn't that fantastic? Hey, if you know Melanie Schaefer, put that in the chat right now. Maybe just share with her that you saw her on the virtual session of its Growth Day at HRSouthwest conference. She is fantastic. She was a great guest, and you can certainly listen to her show on the podcast. But you notice how she talked about, she focuses on those 3 rocks. And I think a lot of times we get these lists so long. I mean, who has a to-do list? Put it in the chat. We all do. As a matter of fact, sometimes we forget to put something on the to-do list. Then all of a sudden we're like, hey, I just did that and it wasn't on my to-do list. So I'm going to write it down just so I can mark it off. I mean, I'm guilty of that. And so she helps us with her focus on, hey, I'm going to focus on these 3 things. And that helps her through that process. And so we've got to set some goals. Hey, number 2, we've got to do some networking. And I tell people all the time, our environment has changed, but the mission remains the same. It doesn't matter what our environment is. We still have to connect with people. And if you're looking for a great way to connect, I am currently reading Heidi Torres. She has a new book called The CEOs of Networking. Great book, and gives you some ideas. You can get that in the Sherm bookstore, so be sure and check that out. But your network is your net worth. And we've got to find ways to network and connect with others, because the more people we get to know, the more people we can help, the more resources. But we learn so much from people. I want to share a real quick story on the environment we are in for networking and how we can still network if we do it the right way. So I've had a couple of different people reach out to me on LinkedIn, said, hey, I'm transitioning into HR. I know that you're connected with some people. I would love to talk to you for 15 minutes. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? And so I gave them, of course, I said, sure, because they told me exactly what they wanted. And they said, here's how much time I need. And so I knew exactly what that framework looked like. Many times I get a lot of different requests. And I'm so busy. It's on my not yet list. I'm so busy. Unless I know exactly what it's for, it's really hard to take all the calls. So I took these calls and basically connected with these individuals, and they were similar stories. And basically what I shared with them is this: you're doing it the right way. You're being intentional. You're telling me how much time you need. And so as soon as you connect with someone, then ask the question, hey, who is someone else that you know in your network that I can connect with? Maybe even ask them two names, and stay consistent and keep connecting with those individuals. Even if it's on a call or Zoom, continue to connect. And then you'll look, 30, 60 days later, and you'll have 50 people in your network. And we gotta find ways to be a resource. So we have to continue to find ways to help others. And so one of the ideas that I got this from a friend of mine, shared this a long time ago. I think she got it from a book, and it was talking about a question log. And so how many of you have a question log? Put that in the chat if you've ever done this. And here's what the question log is. If someone asks you the same question more than 3 times, we need to turn that into a policy change or a product or a service or something. Because if 3 people are asking that question, there's more people that have that same question. And so isn't that great though? You can become this resource because you're tracking those questions. And so you don't have to track everything, but I try to track. Being in relocation, a lot of times I'll get the questions and then I'll turn that into a blog, or maybe I'll turn that into some communication. For example, one of the most popular questions is, after the movers load my household goods in the truck, do I have to drive behind the truck? And of course the answer is no, right? And so I turn that into some communication, and I'll share, hey, here's some tips to think about whenever you're relocating. But whenever you're, on your team, whatever it is, maybe it's in your association, try to track those questions on. Maybe you're part of a local SHRM chapter. Try to track the questions that the members are asking, and try to turn that into a resource. So just another way to be a resource. Hey, number 3. Volunteering. Who's a volunteer in this session right now? Put it down in the chats. I want to see it. If you volunteer, put what is your volunteer role and who's your chapter. Would love to see that. I mean, let's give people some high fives around here. I got to tell you, you can build a leadership community through service. I've been volunteering for a long, long time. I volunteered with Dallas HR for many years, became the president, and then served on the board of trustees. And today I serve Texas Sherm State Council. I also serve the North Texas Relocation Professionals. And I feel like volunteering is so important if we're going to continue to grow and give back. So many of you may know Steve Brown. Steve Brown is he's the chief people officer for La Rosa's Pizza, and he also sits on the SHRM board. He's very active on Twitter and writes a blog. He does amazing stuff. He's got a book called HR on Purpose. I want to share what he has to say about the importance of volunteering. Let's hear what Steve has to say.
This is why I think it's valuable to volunteer in your profession. One, how can you make your profession better if you're not involved in your profession? I don't know how you can do it. I've had only good experiences in the midst of ups and downs through that whole time. Mm-hmm. I've been volunteering now for 20 plus years. And I don't plan on stopping until they tell me I can't do it anymore. But the thing that's amazing is it's opened up incredible doors professionally, incredible doors into making my organization better. By being connected externally, I can make my internal processes better because other people are doing this better than we are. So instead of trying to always create and being very insular, I learn from others and bring in components. And what we talk about here is we La Rosify everything, just like you do it at your place. You make it fit your culture. So I might hear a great development model, and we say, okay, cool. And then just like a pizza, we La Rosify it and make it work.
Don't you just love that? La Rosify it. Are you kidding me? That is fantastic. I'm going to have to use that term for my company. Armstrongify it or HRSouthwest-ify it. I love that. But isn't that true though? How can you help our profession if we're not involved in finding out what other people are doing? And so you're here today. And so what a great opportunity for you to take some of this information and share this with your team, with your association, with whoever that you get ideas from. So, hey, I love that. If you get a chance, be sure and listen to Steve Brown's episode and send him a note. Let him know, hey, I really liked what you had to say at the HR Southwest conference. He would absolutely love that. Another great reason to network is that, hey, anybody looking for a job? I love what Tara Crowley says. She is the co-host for Oklahoma HR Leads podcast. If you're looking for a job, a great way to find a job is volunteer with an organization. There's so much upside to networking and just expanding your network. Just so many different reasons. But definitely if you're looking for a job, I'm sure there are a lot of people on here. Hey, put it in the chat. Did you find a job through networking? And I don't know what the statistic is, but I know it's big when it comes to job openings are usually through networks. Hey, let's talk about the importance of education. I mean, you know the importance of education, don't you? You're here today. You're here at the HR Southwest conference at the virtual conference session. And so I always talk about, hey, it's all about the ABCs of high performance. And that is being all in. Hey, B, you got to believe in everything that you're doing is going to help you help others. And then C, we got to be consistent. We got to always be learning. Many people have shared, never stop learning. We have that never stop learning approach. But education is, I remember whenever I got out of college thinking, oh my gosh, it's over. Little did I realize it was just beginning. But I want to share with you real quick an idea I got from Jesse Itzler. So Jesse Itzler, he's an ultra marathon guy. He's a partner in the Atlanta Hawks. He has written books. He's married to Sarah Blakely, who is the CEO of Spanx. So super inspirational guy. And he was talking about, some different things he did. And I thought, that is Growth Day. And so I put this together. I'm going to blow this up for you right here so you can see. But here's the concept, and that is this. If you want to really focus on areas of growing, let's take Growth Day vitamins, right? And so what you do is you put date on an Excel spreadsheet, put it on the left-hand side of the Excel spreadsheet, put 30 days down. Let's try a 30-day challenge. And then on the top of the spreadsheet, make 7 columns and write down some different areas where you want to grow. Maybe I want to network. Maybe I want to get to know different people in different departments, or maybe learn something more about operations or customer service, or maybe I need to work out or run, or maybe I just need to learn more about my industry, or maybe volunteer more. I mean, whatever that is, whatever area you want to grow. Maybe you want to learn to play the piano. Whatever that is, write it down at the top. And then each day, try to take at least, put an X on at least 3 of these items. Don't try to do all of them every day. You just can't do it. We don't have the bandwidth to do that, right? But you can focus on 3 of those, right? And so focus on what are those 3. And then at the end of the month, write down the number. I'll put this back up for you. Write down the number at the bottom where you spent the most of your time. And then you can decide, do I want to spend more time in those 3 areas? Or, you know what? I really wanted to get to know more about our operations or more about something else. I'm going to really focus on that next month. But it all starts with awareness. But we've got to be intentional. Intentional is the word. When we're intentional, good things will happen. We will grow and be able to help others grow along the way. And so, what do you think about Growth Day vitamins? Put it in the chat. Are you taking Growth Day vitamins now? And so I've done this. I'll do this a couple of times a year just to kind of see, where I'm at with what I'm trying to learn. Maybe I want to, read more, or maybe I want to, listen to more podcasts, or I was playing the piano for a while. Maybe I want to try something different. Whatever that is, this is a great tool to help not just you, but to help your team members if they're ever looking for, hey, you know what? I'm trying to figure out what I need to do more. Maybe this is a good team exercise. Try that. Let me know if you have any questions on that. I love what Dr. Derek Cruz, he's a professor out at Texas Women's University, said. He says, he's also the author of the book, college textbook, Mastering Human Resource Management. And he said, learning has not occurred until behavior has changed. Who agrees with that? Yeah. So we've got to find a way to, shift that. So I want to talk about number 5. So we've talked about all these different things today when it comes to Growth Day. We've talked about, of course, setting goals. We've talked about networking. We've talked about volunteering. We've talked about education. But you can't talk about Growth Day without failure. Oh, man, listen, I've made a living on failure. And who's failed? Put that in the chat. I will tell you, we've got to embrace it. And I absolutely love what Steve Harvey says. He says, you have to get it wrong to get it right. Isn't that the truth? And so I have so many stories on failure, but I just want to say this about failure. We've got to embrace it. Like, we're going to fail. And when we fail, we know that we're going to be better from it. I remember when I first started the podcast that I'm doing and how I forgot to hit record on one of my episodes. I was so embarrassed. But you know what? I check that recording every time now to make sure that's recorded. And, I've done that in my work where I thought it was, I thought I had given the information to my team the right way. And when I look back, I failed, but I learned from it. We're going to fail. We need to embrace failure. I love what my friend Melissa Goebel says about failure. And I want to share her perspective with you and listen to hear what she has to say. She is a CHRO, and let's hear
I
what
want
she
to add
has to say.
something to that. I think you're right. You don't grow on the mountaintops, you grow in the valleys.
Mm.
And so when I look back at my biggest growth, I think about like those truck drivers that would come in and talk to me. I learned so much from those people who were willing to share. But I also learned from my own failures, or I learned from bad managers that I reported to, because it gave me a firsthand experience. So now when I'm talking to people or they talk about a tough spot, I have empathy because I've been through some of that too. But you're right. It's those valleys that we go through that help mold us to be where we are.
So love it. You don't grow on the mountaintop, you grow in the valley. And it's a dark time many times. I mean, I've shared many stories in my books about some times that I failed and how dark those times were and how that black cloud just hung over my head, but I got through it. We get through it. And so just got to embrace failure and be ready for that. Hey, I talked about goal setting earlier. I want to talk real quick about the importance of having a goal mindset versus a growth mindset. And so I was listening to John Maxwell on one of his podcasts. He was talking a little bit about this, and immediately I stopped my workout and I just started making notes in my phone because it was just so good. So I want to share this with you. I'm going to enlarge these 2 slides here. So when it comes to goals focus on the destination. And goals are seasonal, right? When we make goals are so important, but they're seasonal. Goals will challenge us, which is fantastic. And when we reach our goal, we often plateau, right? And so, but what about having this growth mindset? You know, when we have this growth mindset, people focus on the journey, not the destination, right? We talked about goals, seeing the destination. Growth is like big picture. Growth isn't seasonal. It's lifelong. And growth doesn't challenge people. It changes people. So having that growth mindset. And then when we reach a goal, when we have that growth mindset, we keep growing. When you grow, you will continue to change. And so, you know, it's important to set those goals, but we really need to have that growth mindset. Like it's our everyday. And we need to instill that with our team members that, hey, we're going to set a goal. Hey, we hit that goal. Let's celebrate. Let's keep going. There's no end, right? Like it says on at Nike, there's no finish line when it comes to growth. We're always growing. We're always learning. We're always looking for ways to get better. And one of the ways we can do that is by creating momentum. You know, a lot of times I tell people, I read this, one of my very first leadership books I read, John Maxwell, The 25 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And if you've read that, put that in the chat. It's a game changer. And it talked about momentum, and it said, you know, the law of the big Mo basically says when you have momentum, you think you're better than what you are. But when you don't, you think you're worse. And many times we might hit a goal and then all of a sudden we plateau. And what it is all of a sudden now we don't have any momentum anymore. So we've got to figure out how can we create momentum. And many times we create momentum through action. And I had Adrienne Court on the show, and she talked about the importance of OTL. And I'm going to play this clip for you before we end. But she talked about over the line. OTL means over the line. And she said this, many times we get a project, and we want it to be 100% completed before we move forward. And most of the time that, it causes us to not move into action. And she said that the people the high performers, the people that are able to move things forward, they get things 85% of the way there, and then they figure out how to get it the last 15% to get it over the line through adjustments and changes and being agile and flexible. And so, if, a lot of us need to really be thinking about, what, it doesn't have to be perfect. And, there are some things that, you've got to make sure it's all right. We got to find ways to just, I remember when I was writing my book, I was, kept making changes to the end. I thought I could make changes for another year. I just got to put it out there. And that's what I've done. And there's some things I think, I could have changed this or that, but hey, that's the next book. And so we've got to figure out, how can we have that OTL mindset to create that momentum to get going? And so hopefully this has been helpful to you. Hey, one of the things that I want to talk about we have 15 minutes here. And so I want to run through this real quick with you. And I went out to different leaders and I asked them about their thoughts around Growth Day. Can you give me some ideas on what you do in your organization? And so I want to share these with you. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I want you to, and you can take a screenshot and post that. But I want to give you an idea of what some of the leaders are doing in their organizations. And so for our organization, I shared that, we have, Armstrong Center for Excellence, where we focus on driving values. So when new team members come in, we're showing them videos of our DNA elements, which are our core values, and trying to help them grow in the organization. Another company said, hey, a growth day built into paid time off policies. I mean, do you have that? I mean, what do you do when it comes to growth day for your employees? Put that in the chat. I think people would love to hear from you. Another leader talked about the importance of being fit for the future. Atmos talked about being Atmos essentials, and we have this together type mindset. We're in this together type mindset. I just love that. And then, I love this leader said, we consider growth and learning an everyday thing. I just think that's so important. We also, leaders talked about having a dedicated learning and development department. Do you have a dedicated learning and development department? And if you do, what's that look like? I mean, put that in the chat. I think people would love to see that. I love this, how this leader said, we like to say fail fast. Try something, and if it doesn't work out, that's fine. We're going to learn from it. How about encouraging cross-training? I think that's one of the misses that we all have a chance to do more cross-training. And of course, we've got to put some milestones in place. I love this leader said they have a leadership academy, and then another leader said we have a growth approach using their values. They call it EPIC, and that's a excellence, and then behavior or excellence, professional integrity, and creativity. And then, of course, they all celebrate from that. So these are just a few ideas from some of the different leaders when it comes to what some of the programs that they have. But how about some things to think about? What do you need to think about when it comes to a growth day, let's say a growth day mindset, growth day culture? And I love the first leader says, you're right. Culture is difficult because it's not an event. It's a collective way of behaving and driving consistent behaviors and feelings. So maybe add a professional development plan and a one-to-one question that leaders can ask team members related to their ongoing development. How are the employees encouraged to embrace their initiative, and is there a reward or an incentive for the outcome? Because you're right. If people don't buy in, then why would they even want to do it? They got to know the why. We talked about the why earlier. And we talked about, extremely successful people have become successful through experiencing mental failures. We talked about failure. Allowing mistakes is part of a positive culture. Corporate culture is one of the top reasons employees leave their organizations. So, hey, what about, this could also be a way for improve retention, right? And then aspiration is certainly the key. I mean, there's going to be some employees that don't want to be part of that, and you just gotta accept that and try to do the best you can and model for others. And here's the last information on thinking, and that is this. Now, do you notice the words that I have in bold? Right, accountability. How's accountability department defined? We cannot facilitate change without designated others to help others hold them accountable. This is the hard stuff. Or as my friend Suzanne Myers likes to say, this is the easy hard stuff, right? Holding people accountable. Maybe do something simple each quarter with an accountability partner. Maybe to learn what motivates your culture accountability partner and use that as an incentive. Or, I love that one leader says, maybe include some assessments and those would be both business simulation and personal ones that, as B.F. Skinner says, what gets measured gets done. So how can we consistently impact what we can't measure? And so this is so right on. So I wanted to just share with you just some different ideas from top level leaders that what they're doing as far as their growth, and then some things to think about. So maybe take some of those ideas and try to, say, hey, you know what, maybe we need to try, we talked about setting goals earlier. Maybe we need to try this one thing. Let's see if it works. And you know what if we fail? What if you fail? You learn from it, right? Hopefully that's helped you. If that's helped you, put that in the chat. I would love to see your idea. I love that, man, this chat is incredible today. I also want to share this. And so at the end of each podcast, I have about 8 minutes to go. And so I'm going to wind this down. And as I wind down, I want to talk to you about, I have, during the podcast, I like to ask leaders what advice they have received that they like sharing with others. And I started, when I started, or maybe it's a mantra that you have. And so each time I would hear something, I would write it down. And it reminded me of a story when I played high school football. So we had a really good team, and our defense was like one of the best in the state. We had 7 straight shutouts, meaning that the opponents didn't score on us for 7 straight games. And our school community and everybody started calling us the green brick wall. And I started thinking about, these bricks and how, one person on that team could not do all of that. It takes all 11 team members to do that. And each time I talk to someone on the podcast, I talk to someone at a meeting, I talk to someone in my company about, different things, and I try to take something away from it. And so what I've been doing over the podcast over the last 78, 80 episodes is I've basically taken something from every single guest and made that a brick for me. And so I call this now my brick wall of leadership. And every time I hear something from someone, I write it down. And I share it with others. And I want to share just a few of these bricks that have been shared over the time. I love former HRSouthwest conference director Chrissy Rogers says, you can't be successful without failure. I mean, we just talked about that, didn't we? We heard Steve Brown earlier on the video. Leaders make other people feel valued. Halima McWilliams, she's speaking at the conference. Inclusion is about bringing yourself to the table in fullness. Seth McCauley, VP of HR for Kirby Smith, says there's a lot of power in saying yes. And I love what Paige Luckemeyer is so inspiring. It says if you're feeling like there is something you want to chase, a dream, something to do, go do it. Our Texas SHRM State Conference Director-elect says the work that I am doing today is going to make life better for someone else. I love what the former chairman of the board for SHRM says, always approach your job with the lens of a CEO. And Leanne Day, she says, the no is leading me right to the yes. I love that. I love what Justin Dorsey says, if I can make this person's day just a fraction easier, they're going to remember that long term. And then our Dallas HR president, Holly Novak, says, care about people first. And I was just thinking about this and thinking, Okay, what if you had different employees' sayings on your wall in your office? Tell me. I mean, would they be proud of that? Would that change your culture? That would be incredible. What if you went and got some bricks and made some bricks and put something, that they said on there that was important to them, and you made a brick wall in your office or your company? Or maybe you already have something like that. And if you do, I'd love for you to put it in the chats. I mean, think about that. How that could absolutely change the game. So here's what I want to ask you. Well, let me say this. Adrienne Court, the Chief Human Resources Officer for Alchemy, I want to share whenever I asked her about her advice, I want to share what she had to say, and then we're going to close up here. And I think you're really going to enjoy what Adrienne has to say about this.
Well, there's a couple. The first is many of us are leaders or managers of people will tend to focus on people on their weaknesses. Bruce, this is the area that you're weakest. Instead, really just exploit the strengths, recognize the weaknesses, but exploit the strengths. It's very difficult. People can learn and maybe be aware of their weaknesses, but many times that's hard to change. So for me as a leader is exploit the strengths and be aware of the weaknesses. I think that's a very important one. I think the other thing early on in my career, as I kind of mentioned, but I think when the door closes, you find a window to break and go that way too. So you just, you need to find a way. And sometimes it's not just the way right out the front door. So you have to find alternative ways to make it happen. The other thing too that I find, one more, is a lot of times we just get caught in the cycle of, the projects, getting it done. And I call it OTL, over the line. Get it 85% there and get it over the line instead of just waiting for something to be perfectly done. It'll never be perfect. But I find many times leaders get stuck trying to, sometimes you just need to get things over the line and make them happen. And then you're fixing the tire maybe the rest of the way on the track. But sometimes you just have to hit the gas and just start going.
Isn't that great? I just love that. That was when she was talking about over the line. We talked about that. But hey, here's the question I have for you. What's your brick? I want to know what is your mantra? And so I want you to just write down a note to put your mantra together. And then I want you to post that on social. I want you to share that with your team. And then I want you to ask your team, what is their mantra? And start making bricks in your office. I want to see what that looks like. And share your takeaways with me. If you want to talk about it more, I'd love to talk about that with you more. But I really think that that could be a game changer. Hey, what are some actionable takeaways? Let's look at it here. First, let's set a goal. Let's finish strong. Let's share some conference takeaways with our network. Be sure and sign up to volunteer. And if you're a volunteer already, hey, let's ask someone else to volunteer with us. Include education with your growth vitamins. We talked about growth day vitamins, embracing failure, and then using OTL to get that momentum. And so I want to encourage you to do all of that. Hey, I'm gonna leave you with this right here, and that is this. Every day is growth day for high performers that want to be effective and make impact in the workplace. They have a never stop learning mindset. They're strategic, they're committed, and trust the process even during challenging times. High performers also multiply their growth when they surround themselves with a leadership community, both inside and outside the workplace. So let's make today and every day a growth day so we can move leaders and inspire and change the workplace. And 3 ways to do that: be curious, be committed, and be consistent. I hope you've enjoyed this today. Hey, if you want to check out my books, Life in the Leadership Lane book is now at the Sherm bookstore. Also pick up a copy of Find Your Lane, and then Mile Markers is the journal that can help you stay on track. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. The best way to connect with me is probably on LinkedIn. I'm so grateful to be here today to share this message. And I would love to hear back from you. If you enjoyed this session, let me know. Reach out, and I would love to hear, like, what was your one takeaway? And I cannot wait to see what your brick is. Enjoy the rest of the conference, my friends. I'll talk to you later.